Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Report, and today's show is presented by Panda Supps. If there's a diehard Raider fan out there that wants to save 35% off on the best workout supplements, you gotta use code ADAMS. We're gonna get you set up. We're gonna take care of you. That link's gonna be available for you all down in the comments and description of today's video. So what's gonna be coming up here on today's show? We're gonna be talking about the news, rumors, a lot of stuff. What's the latest going on around DK Metcalf? I'm going to tell you exactly what Adam Schefter had to say bright and early this morning. Free agency rumors, there's tons of them. Could the Raiders go out and sign one of the top right tackles? Bleacher Report thinks that they should. What about some potential draft targets? The Raiders had a few draft day guys come in for their official 30-day visits. I'm going to talk to you about 3 names to keep your eyes on. And then at the end of today's show, I'm going to give you the answer to some Raiders trivia. I don't know about y'all. I figured we have a little bit of fun. So here's the trivia question, and maybe you know it, and if you do, go down to the comments section right now and see if you can get it. Who was the Raiders' first starting quarterback? At the end of today's show, I am going to reveal the answer, but let me know. Who was the Raiders' first starting quarterback? Let's talk about one of the top reasons why you probably clicked on the show today, and it's around DK Metcalf. Bright and early this morning, I saw Adam Schefter send out a fun little article titled 7 Teams That Could Trade for Metcalf. The Raiders were not interested. So some of you are like, well, wait a minute. This is the Raiders report. Raiders weren't listed. Why are we talking about it? We're talking about it because you got to keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Now, Seattle says they don't want to go ahead and trade him, which, okay, most NFL teams should say that. There was a report that came out yesterday that apparently Seattle turned down the 10th overall pick, which then also got debunked and said that that's fake news. The 7 teams, though, that Schefter went ahead and said, look out for them as potential DK trade destinations. The reason why I'm talking about it, that right there, that team's the team that I'm worried about because DK goes to Kansas City, and then that becomes our problem. Now, if he goes to Cleveland with Deshaun Watson, that's an issue because it's an AFC team. Philly, Atlanta, and the New York Jets. I get it, they're in the AFC, but let's be real, I'm not worried about it. The team that I believe makes the most sense is the Green Bay Packers because the Packers used to have a number 1 wide receiver. His name's Devontae Adams, and now he's in the silver and black. The New Orleans Saints, I don't know how much sense that makes, but here's my question to all of you. Will the Seahawks trade DK Metcalf? Type Y for yes or type N for no, and I get it. Seattle has gone ahead and they've said, we're not going to move on from him. We're not going to move on from him. Well, you know what? I think DK ends up getting traded, and there's multiple reasons why. Seattle, 3 or 4 days before they traded Russell Wilson, was like, there's no way we're going to trade Russell Wilson. Guess what? You get offers, and then things can change really, really quickly. On top of all of that, okay, if Adam Schefter is talking about something, that means there's a little bit of truth to it. You don't see a guy like Schefter, you don't see a guy like Rappaport talking about something if there's not a little bit of smoke. The question is, will that smoke turn into fire? And if it does turn into fire, and if that fire ends up landing in Kansas City, I'm going to be one PO'd SOB because the last team that I want him to go to is the Kansas City Chiefs. So fingers crossed. I know it always looks like I'm flipping y'all off. Fingers crossed that it's not the Kansas City Chiefs. If you guys are looking for more content from me, well, guess what? You can find it over on Locals, RaidersReport.locals.com. And in fact, I actually dropped this video bright and early this morning. So if you want to find out something that I think that this Raiders team is going to do that hasn't been done since 1980. Yes, in fact, only one other team in NFL history has done what I think the Raiders are going to do this season. If you want to see what that video is, then go ahead, become a supporter over on Locals. That link is going to be available for y'all in the comments and in the description of today's video. Let's talk about the free agency rumors that I hyped up when I started the show. It's around Daryl Williams, and Bleacher Report released an article titled, "One free agent still on the market who can help each NFL team in 2022. Let me just be very clear on this. Bleacher Report, when they do these articles, they usually take a big-name player, throw him to the Raiders because either A, they hate the Raiders, or B, they know that Raider fans are emotional and a lot of times we overreact to it. However, Daryl Williams is probably the top right tackle left out there on the free agent market, and I know the Raiders, they went ahead, they re-signed Brandon Parker. 1 year, $2.6 million. He can make up to $3.5. You also decided to bring back Jermaine Illuminor. The Raiders have also listed Alex Leatherwood as right guard / offensive tackle. Here's the thing, though. I actually like this idea behind Bleacher Report. Daryl Williams was released by the Buffalo Bills not because he wasn't a good player, but because the money was a little bit too high. In 2020, over 1,000 snaps, overall grade of 79.4, run blocking grade of 76.9, pass blocking grade of 80.0. Last season, he did take a little bit of a step back, but you know what? Still an overall grade of 67.5, played over 1,000 snaps, pass blocking grade of 72.4, run blocking grade of 60.3. The issue is this. How much is it going to cost to go out and get him? So you can go ahead now, be the GM, be Dave Ziegler. Should the Las Vegas Raiders, should the Silver and Black go out and try to get Daryl Williams? If you think that, yes, man, this absolutely makes sense, go ahead and do it. Type that S for sign, or why don't you go down to the comments section and type your P for pass. My answer is yes. If you have the money and if you have the means to do it, then yes, you absolutely do it. He is a clear upgrade over Brandon Parker. And I understand. He did. He took a step back. But you know what I love? I love the new Raiders offensive line coach, Carmen Brasillo, because everything that I've seen around him is he can do a lot of different things. And when I asked y'all about, I don't know, maybe a week ago, 2.5 weeks ago at this point, what's the Raiders' biggest team need? 75% of the people on Twitter, 75% of the people said right tackle. Well, if y'all still believe that, and if you're only picking the NFL draft is at 86 overall in terms of being your first pick, well, then why not go out and try to get somebody who's 6'6", 330 pounds, played in 17 games last season, over 1,000 snaps, and when healthy, can be a very good right tackle, and on top of that, a veteran who I want Alex Leatherwood next to a veteran because it's going to help him grow and help him flourish in the future. So today's show is presented by Panda Sups, and I'm really excited to be able to break down the deals with them because one thing that I love about the nation is I love when people support small companies, or I love when people support each other. And Panda Sups is owned by a diehard Raider fan. His name's Murbad, and he always hooks us up with some awesome deals. So if you go to pandasups.com, use code ADAMS, you're actually going to be able to save 35% off on all of their products. Whether you want to get a scoop of the greens, I know you guys usually get your greens another way, but this is a much healthier way, I promise. In terms of a pre-workout, the Pandemic is actually the strongest pre-workout I've ever had. If you're not used to a lot of caffeine, I recommend doing a half a scoop. If you're having trouble sleeping, my daddy's always like, Mitch, I get up at 2 o'clock in the morning for no reason. You take a scoop of Sleepy Dad, and you're going to be asleep. And with our special offer, if you use code ADAMS, you got to spend over $99. We're also going to throw in a free tub of BCAAs. So remember, it's pandasups.com, code ADAMS, spend over $99, and we're going to throw in a free tub of BCAAs. The BCAAs are like a $50 value. I don't know about y'all. I think it's a hell of a deal, and if you're trying to get into the better shape, trying to show off that six-pack or your keg, whatever the hell you got going on underneath your shirt, because it's beach season, Panda Sups is going to absolutely help you do that. Now coming up here on the Raiders Report, we're going to be talking about some Raiders draft targets. Remember, every single NFL team, you get 30 private or pre-visits before the 2022 NFL Draft. Usually this is the time of the year where teams, they bring in players because you have your first or your second-round pick. When you look at the Raiders, they have 5 picks this year, which is tied for the least amount entering the year, and I'm okay with it. We got Davante Adams, and if you tell me Davante Adams 1, Davante Adams 2, I'm going to be okay with this draft. However, when you're looking at some of the players that the Raiders have brought in, they've been bringing in some late-round dudes, and we're going to be talking about 3 players here on the Raiders Report. One of the very most recent guys that the Silver and Black brought in was Virginia Tech tight end James Mitchell. I want to be very clear when I say this. If the Raiders draft James Mitchell, I'm getting the jersey. Obvious reasons. So the fact that he came in on a host visit, he's a good athlete, and he's got some potential to be a solid pass catcher. Definitely needs to work on his route running ability a little bit, but he's pretty big at 6'3", 242 pounds, had some production over the past few seasons, and when I think about Mitchell, I'm like, okay, his teammate, the other tight end for Virginia Tech, he's actually, I think, the better option. But here's somebody who also at least shows a little bit of effort and blocking. Another player that I talked about before was Isaiah Likely, and Likely was a player who I was hoping was going to test better. At his pro day yesterday at Coastal Carolina, which maybe at this point it's 2 days ago, he ran a 4.840. A tight end run of the 4.840 at 6'4", 240 pounds. I don't know if you could hear Jack in the background. He literally was just like, ew. And that's the truth. I do worry that he was just beating up against bad competition, and he looked a lot faster on film. I did like what I saw. But after talking about Mitchell, after talking about Likely, the reason why the Raiders are bringing these players in is because they are. There's a potential that they go out and get another tight end. I don't think it means bad things for Waller. I don't think it means bad things for Foster Moreau. But you got to look at the future, and Foster's got 1 year left on his deal, and then Darren Waller's got 2 years left on his deal, and they're going to want to have extra guys, not just named Nick Bowers and Jacob Hollister. So out of those two tight end prospects, who do you think's the better one? If you believe it's James Mitchell, go ahead, type JM. If you believe it's Isaiah Likely, you can go ahead and type is. I do see both of these players being somewhere in the round 4, round 5 range. I personally wouldn't take either of them. And with my number 86 overall pick, if it was up to me, I would hope that one falls to round 5. However, I think they're both in the round 4 territory. If you're looking for a better pass catcher, I'm still going to go ahead and say Isaiah Likely, though James Mitchell might have the higher upside. Let's now go to the wide receiver room here. We talked about tight ends, and I'm actually going to talk about 2 wide receivers back-to-back that the Raiders had visits with. Danny Gray. I've actually seen Danny Gray play live. He lives in Dallas, Texas right now. He played at SMU, and he ran a 4.33 40-yard dash. He has inside and outside skill set, which is actually something that I would look for if I'm looking for another complimentary wide receiver, and his skill set is very intriguing to me. The upside is absolutely there. If you want to talk about a dude who, when he runs, I know he's part of the Pony Express or kind of SMU, his strides are long. Like, this dude, when he runs, it's almost like when you're running on an elliptical. You know what I mean? You just feel like you're gliding. That's how Gray runs. He had 49 catches last season, 803 yards, 9 touchdowns from SMU. If you're looking for a field stretcher, which I know the Raiders are still looking to add an extra speed element, Danny Gray has some interesting upside to be a potential wide receiver 3 and a good wide receiver 3 in the future on the Raiders. The other receiver that the Raiders went ahead and they brought in for a top 30 visit is Erik Ezukanma, and productive 3-year starter for the Texas Tech Red Raiders, and if you've been a Raider once, hey, why not go ahead and do it again? This is another player that is kind of near where I am living right now from Fort Worth, Texas. He's big. Combination of size and the foot quickness is good. 6'3", 220 pounds. If the Raiders go out and get Erik Ezukanma, this could potentially be, I would say, bad news for somebody like Bryan Edwards. Bryan Edwards is a better athlete, and I do think he's a better player. However, Ezukanma might be the pick that this new staff ends up going with, and if they don't like what they see out of Edwards, here could potentially be your replacement for him. Now, last season with the Red Raiders, 48 catches, 705 yards, 4 touchdowns, another big-bodied receiver. He needs to get better, and he's definitely not a burner compared to Gray, but he might be a little bit more of a complete receiver and definitely more of a red zone option. So after hearing both of those players, after seeing the size, the speed, who's the better wide receiver for the Raiders? That's the key part here. If you think it's Danny Gray, go ahead and type DG. If you think it's EE, Erik Ezukanma, you can go ahead and type those EEs down below. If you're looking for a field stretcher, a better complementary receiver who I would think fits better with DC, my answer is Danny Gray. If you're looking for a potential Bryan Edwards replacement or another red zone option, then I think you go ahead and type EE. So as promised now, at the beginning of the show, I talked about trivia, and if you guys like the whole trivia thing that we got going on here, and I might try to go ahead and do it a little bit more often because I want to test you. It's the off season, and let's have a little bit of fun. So it is trivia time, and I want you guys to go down in the comments who was the Raiders' first starting quarterback, and how about this? I'll search, and if you are one of the very first people to do it, I'll put you up on tomorrow's show. Sound good? All right, drum roll, please. Who was the Raiders' first starting quarterback The answer was Tom Flores, and it's funny because I know you guys can't totally see it. Shout out to Calico for sending me the T-shirt. It's kind of giving you the answer already. It says Tom, and then it says Flores down here. Tom Flores was the very first quarterback to start for the Raiders all the way back in 1960. So not only is he arguably one of the greatest head coaches of all time, not only is he a Hall of Famer, also a quarterback. But what I always think is funny, and back in 1960, he started 12 games. Bonus points if you can name the other quarterback that started that season in 2. You can't Google it, though. But what was kind of funny is the stats. And, you talk about a Hall of Fame type of player. Imagine Derek Carr having a completion percentage of 48.9. Sure, the yards are there, 11,959. 93 touchdowns, 92 interceptions. It made me chuckle. Obviously, the NFL was much different all the way back then, but I thought the trivia was fun. If you guys enjoyed it and you want to see more of it, go ahead and spam trivia down in the comments. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and if anything breaking happens around the Raiders, we'll keep you up to date. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications.